Hey there. We're going to take a second and go through some of these chop buster exercises that we have included. First one we're going to take a look at is number 7. The deal with number 7 is that it is originally intended to be used with a full band for interval training. We can do the same thing as individuals. So if you notice you have a B flat, measure 1, measure 3, and so on and so forth, that gives us a home bass note to return to. And then each time we keep going to our next measure in the process, that it goes down a half step. So we go from B flat to A, we have a half step, B flat to A flat, we have a whole step, and then it keeps going from there. So the goals here are to aim for consistent tone quality and making sure that it's consistent every time we return up to that note. And also making sure that we're getting good sound quality and the correct stretching of interval going from the first note from our B flat to whatever our new note is. So let's try it together. We're going to play through it twice. I have the metronome set here for about 70. And 1, 2, ready? Cool. So take an inventory for a second. Did all notes slot the way that you wanted it to? Did you get some tone quality that maybe you didn't dig as much as some of the other notes? I would say 9 times out of 10, and I had a moment like that around the G flat area towards the end of the exercise, and I needed to take a better breath than I did. So if you're having issues with tone quality or pitch, I would venture to guess it's probably air has a lot to do with it. So just make sure we're getting good quality breaths when we need to. Let's try one more time. 1, 2, ready? Good. So again, the use of the metronome with this is mostly just to kind of keep us honest timing wise. If you're doing this with a full band, probably not going to use a metronome with it. That being said, if you're finding that trying to take a breath in time is causing other issues with getting back to pitch and doing stuff like that, I think it's a more valuable use to just take an extra beat, take a good breath, and go. Obviously, you can't do that in normal music, but the point here is more for ear training than it is for making sure we're playing all of those whole notes in the context of what the Met's telling us. The metronome here is mostly just to give us a baseline for time. We're looking at number 1. Definitely ways that I would recommend practicing this before you go to play it. If you're learning this for the first time, going through and note naming and fingering through it as just to get practice with the fingerings, I think is definitely a valuable use of the time. We're going to just play through it. We're going to do it at 2 different tempos. This first one is going to be your metronome set at 80 beats per minute. I'm going to have one playing through here. There we go. And 1, 2, ready? Cool, that's at 80 beats per minute. A couple of things to keep in mind as you're going through this. Some barriers to entry are definitely things where involving pinkies and other fingers just happen, like those transitions happening at the same time. Getting everything to move at once, very robotic like with the fingers, so that we don't get any extra notes in between. Especially things like C to A flat. A to F is another example, and G sharp to E, definitely things like that can be a little tricky to not get one finger to slide down, before the others. So this next one's going to be at about 100 beats per minute. A little bit quicker. Here we go. 1, 2, ready? Cool. So you can feel free to, if you're practicing this by yourself, you'd feel free to change up articulation and feel free to change tempo, dynamics. There are plenty of different things you can do with this to kind of switch it up a little bit. So hopefully some of this is helpful, and yeah, keep practicing. This is a good one for finger dexterity. Hi. We're just continuing to work on some of these chop buster exercises. This time we're looking at number 4. This is our chromatic scale. We're going to take this sort of half and half. We're going to do the first line where we have our eighth notes and half notes, and then we'll do the triplet measures after that. We're going to break that into 2 parts. At the end, we'll give a chance to do the whole thing in one go. So if you're just doing this just to play through it, you can skip towards the end. So we're going to take a look through here. I'm going to be playing all of the top line stuff, because that's probably what you're going to be doing, especially in that first part of the scale, starting on the low B flat. I don't know for this kind of exercise that I would recommend doing that right away. So I have the metronome set at about 50. That is the quarter note, so the eighth note would be around 100 if you'd rather set it to the eighth note. If you're just going to follow along with this, we're going to use the quarter note. We're going to be thinking about that subdivision as we're going through. 1 and 2, ready. And let's try that one more time. 1, 2, ready. Now we're making the transition here to the triplets. We want to think about how that subdivision is going to work with the triplet. 1 triplet, dee dum dum, beam pum pum, beam pum pum. Always want to make sure we're thinking ahead about how that pulse, how that subdivision is going to change before we get there. Otherwise, we're going to tend to slow down. Oh, let's give the second line a try. Starting on the second line, 5th complete measure. 2, ready, and go. Good. And yeah, you want to make sure that we're holding that dotted half at the end for 3 full words are hard. 3 full beats. Cool. So there's some variations you can do on this. You could tongue on the way up, slur on the way back down. You could tongue the whole thing. You could slur the whole thing. There's tons of variations that you could do on it based on what your needs are. So let's go ahead. We're gonna take a second. We're gonna play through the whole exercise. Breathe where you need to. If you're gonna take a breath, I would take. I would wait until after one of the half notes. Second line, good luck. Just find somewhere to breathe. No, 1, 2, beginning. Ready? Good. Cool. So if you heard, I switched some of the articulation up in there. If you're not doing it the exact same way, it's totally cool. Just giving you an example of a way that you could switch it up a little bit. We're looking at Chop Busters exercise 8. So we're gonna do this. Let's pick a tempo. Still feels a little fast. All right, let's try this around. We're going to try this around 75 beats per minute. So aiming for good tone quality, thinking about excellent pitch, especially on our A flats. And for the sake of this, since we're using a mitt, I'm not going to retard those last two measures. But if we were doing this with a group, we absolutely would do that with a conductor. Yeah, this is exercise 8, playing through it. 1, 2, ready? Yeah, so we can. There's lots of ways to work with this. Ideally, you'd be playing in a full group with it, but there's still plenty of really good things that you can make happen with this. So happy practicing. Yeah, keep thinking about tone quality. Keep thinking about good intonation. You're gonna be